technology, it's not going anywhere.
It ain't.
It's not.
Only getting
it's
better,
only becoming more advanced.
More advanced.
Exactly. So I feel that, we're going to have to do what we can to keep our older teachers, because they're very valuable.
Right.
A lot of older teachers are coming out of retirement.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Like I saw this infomercial on the news the other day, and it was an older teacher came out of retirement, and they were helping these young children to read. And so it's just a serious thing. People, we got to encourage our older teachers. We got to show them we appreciate them.
Yeah.
What you just said, we have to find ways to keep them.
Yeah.
Because they're very valuable.
They are.
Just as well as the young people.
Coach Stacey B here with another episode of the Childcare Teacher Chronicles podcast, where we talk about all things childcare, specifically as it relates to the teacher's point of view. I am here with Miss Roslyn Veal, and we have a very juicy topic for you today. We are going to be discussing old school versus new school, because the teaching game has changed, and I have one of our old school legends with us, Miss Roslyn Veal. Welcome, Miss Roz.
Thank you, Stacey. It's a pleasure to be here.
That's no problem. I'm glad to have you. Now, I know how phenomenal you are as a teacher. I know how long you have been working in the early education field. I know how impactful you are, but I need you to pop your collar and tell the audience a little bit about who you are, how long you have been in early education, and why you are the perfect person to talk about this old school versus new school.
Well, I'm Roslyn Veal. I've been in early childhood for 35 plus years.
She been in early childhood longer than some of y'all the last been alive. But go ahead, Ms. Roz.
Yes, and let me tell you something. It's a passion. It's something that you have to love to do, because it's not easy, but it's very rewarding. Yeah. And I have to say I've been blessed.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So in your 35 years, you have worked in all sectors, and I know this because we've met at the opening of a new child care facility. Yes. We started working together. We formulated a great relationship, and we have been in great communication, and one of the dear people I've known since I've met you. So I want to appreciate you for what you do for this career field, but also for those you impact, younger teachers like me coming into just being a leader and giving us some guidance, right? So I want to thank you for that, Ms. Roz. But let's get right into this topic. As we talk about old school versus new school, I felt like this is an important topic to talk about at the Childcare Teacher Chronicles podcast, because there has been some changes over the years in the teaching staff, right? There has been some major differences as we see from our old school teachers to our new school teachers. And one of the things I want to start off with is just the teaching philosophies and the different methods that's being used. Can you chime in a little bit on how there is a noticeable difference in those methods and philosophies from old school teachers, where there is to this new generation where, a lot of stuff real loose with them right now?
Yes, it is. What I find as working in childcare, as you say, for so many years, is that now we see the learning is turning to more play-based learning.
Okay.
And there is, there's pros and cons to that. And let me say, a lot of the old school teachers, they're not into that. It's difficult because change is always hard for people. And it's more difficult because of the fact that they see so many things changing, and they're not ready for it, and they feel like some of the things that they see, such as children's behaviors, the challenging behaviors, the children having difficulty learning, it's an adjustment for everyone, because this is the culture. This is what's happening in society.
Right.
And what I find is that it has a lot to do with the new generation of parents that we're teaching.
So what you're speaking on, and what I want to call this is that traditional versus modern approach, right?
Right.
Traditional, I would have to say, is more of our old school, where we had more structural learning. And I can remember even myself being in a child care facility. Back then, we called it nursery school, but there was more traditional learning where it was more educational base, reading and writing and your numbers and your handwriting skills and those fine motors and being able to recite and know different things, as opposed now where, like you say, this modern era, it's more a play base. Children learn by playing, and let them play their hearts away and they're gonna get it, right? But how sustainable is that when we rolled over into the school systems?
Well, first we have to have our teachers to understand that it's possible, and you have to be open-minded to change. In education, it's like what they say about fashion. Fashion is evolutionary, so is education. We're always learning. So it's the mindset. We have to change our way of thinking, and it's hard. And it's been hard for me, but my goal is to teach, to inspire. My greatest fulfillment is when I see a child mastering a skill. Yeah. When they're hitting their milestones. Right. So we have to start with our parents, I feel. We're dealing with children of parents who come from a different generation than I myself grew up in, even you. And you're much younger than I. But we have we've had so many advancements in technology, and children are given electronic devices, and it takes the part of the parent. It takes that role, rather.
That connection, that interaction.
Yes, and we are, as humans, we are social beings. So we need that social interaction. Right. It's not happening. And I say, there's the old saying, when you know better, you do better. Yeah. Sometimes that works, but people are caught up in their life. Yeah. And so I feel we need to have more dialogue with parents about what's expected of them. And maybe we can get them to be more receptive, because we can't knock them. We need them. We need the parents.
Let me say this, and I took that expression and you kind of knocked me out, and I had to wake up and come back to it, because in so many of these episodes we record, one of the key things that keep coming up is that parent involvement, that parent interaction, that parent engagement. So we gonna wrap and talk about that at another time, but I wanted to highlight, this keeps coming up in all of our topics as we speak of the Childcare Teacher Chronicles. Parents are crucial to the success of these children, crucial to the success of these childcare centers. But as you kind of laid into the technology and the change and how things are evolving, I want to talk a little bit more about that, because that's another difference that we see in our old school versus new school. A lot of our old school teachers really haven't grasped that technology piece, right? Right. And not only does the new school teachers excel at it, but now the powers that be that call all the shots and tell you how to regulate your classrooms and your centers, they want you to be totally tech savvy. And I have seen where child care centers, myself included, has lost some phenomenal old school teachers, right? Because they couldn't keep up with the pressure of this new age wave of technology and being computer literate and being social media savvy, and now we don't do the written parent reports anymore. We do it on what?
We send emails. We send text messages.
We have these parent engagement apps and programs that you have to learn and download. Yes. So talk to me a little bit about the difference and your point of view and perspective on the old school versus new school teachers when it comes to integrating technology.
Let me tell you, it was a challenge for me. And I have people I work with who find it very challenging. I mean, we help each other. We got to do the buddy system. But I think it's helpful because we, as like we say, as things advance, and I just stated that education is evolutionary. That's the world we live in.
Yeah.
We gotta keep up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it has its pros and cons. Nothing takes the place of having that one-on-one with a parent. I'm all for that. But I had to learn that. I have to open my emails at least twice a day, because that's the way we're communicating.
Yes.
I get emails from my supervisors, and they're telling us about things that we're gonna have to do. It kind of helps where, you know, we walking around in that paper chain, all of that. It really helps. And it helps with parents. We have an app that we have parents. We introduced this past school year, where it helps them with their children homework.
Okay.
You know, we used to do a lot of paperwork, but now this is taking the place of that.
Right.
And I have to go in. I got to go in and put all the parents' emails in. I got to send out the invites. I got to get on there each week and place my homework assignments for 5 days and send it out to them with a little note. I love it. I think it's great.
So in needing to embody this new way of communicating with the parents, and even like you say, your supervisors communicating with you and other entities in your organization, what would you say to those old school teachers who haven't yet grasped this concept? Again, I want to speak to them, because I feel like if we don't get them on board and fill in the right professional developments, which that's going to be another question for you, we're going to lose them, right? And we don't need to lose this sector in our field.
No, we don't.
We need our strong old school teachers who have those different values and are grounded in different beliefs. And like you say, you get excited to see a child hit a milestone. A lot of our new teachers get excited to see a child leave the center for the day. You know? That's a whole difference in that old school versus new school teacher. So tell me, what are some of the things you think that need to be incorporated to help preserve our old school teachers in early education?
We have to support them best as we can.
Okay.
We have to ask them what they need.
Okay.
You know, listen to their needs and find a solution, work together, because they are needed.
They are.
We see now in education, teachers young people are not that eager to sign up to become a teacher. It's across the nation. I read about it all the time. I actually did a paper 2 semesters ago about the perils of becoming a teacher in early childhood education. But it's across the nation, from early childhood to the higher grades to high school. It's a problem. Okay. So what I say is that we have to get together and we have to support each other, you know, and people have to be willing to ask for help. Right. And that's difficult for some people, because they're not, they used to being able to do things on their own. And some of them are not open to it because they feel inferior. Right. And we don't want that. So we, around the center where I work, we have some teachers, they help each other. They help putting in anecdotal notes. Right. We help them, our teacher advisors help by setting up things to help, like I'll help you set your page up. We have to do what we do in kinds, because I work, the organization I work for, they ask for in kinds. I have to get on there and I have to do these things each month. Right. You know, but I have somebody who helps me. Right. You know, with whatever I'm not sure of doing. But I make it a point to try to learn. Right. And that's what everybody has to be open-minded to you know, to receive the help. And I think that technology, it's not going anywhere. It ain't. It's not.
Only getting
it's
better,
only becoming more advanced.
More advanced.
Exactly. So I feel that, you know, we're gonna have to do what we can to keep older teachers because they're very valuable.
Right.
A lot of older teachers are coming out of retirement.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Like I saw this infomercial on the news the other day, and it was an older teacher came out of retirement, and they were helping these young children to read. And so it's just a serious thing. People, we got to encourage our older teachers. We got to show them we appreciate them.
Yeah.
What you just said, we have to find ways to keep them.
Yeah.
Because they're very valuable.
They are.
Just as well as the young people.
They are. They
Yes.
are. But it's a little different. And I'll relate it to this, before I get to our next talking point. But you can tell a grandchild who has been raised by an old school grandmother.
Yes, you can.
Or you can tell that grandchild if they've been raised by these new school
Yes,
grandmothers,
you can.
right?
Yes.
So it's the same effect in the child care centers. Both are effective, both are raising the children, but you have more of a well-rounded child when you are able to incorporate both sides of this, right?
Right.
And so that kind of brings me into my next talking point. Discipline and classroom management. There are leaps and bounds in differences. I can see where it comes from an old school teacher,
right,
having to insert discipline in the early education class, and even classroom management, right? I know when I was growing up, it was a bunch of y'all better sit down, don't get out that seat, don't move.
I'm gonna give you that look.
That look did it all.
Your mama said, I'm gonna give you that look, and you know what's happening. And
don't
next.
have your mama have to tell your daddy.
Yes.
Oh, you gonna about die.
And don't let the teacher tell your mama.
Yep.
So and let me say that happens now, and it's so funny. We have some old school teachers, some of them who will know me, and it's so funny how they'll sit down and they can talk to the parents, and the parents come there asking for these teachers, looking for them. Look,
parents needed to.
Yeah. And I have a coworker who has a child in her class. She taught the mom. And the mom like, you still here?
Yeah.
And so that speaks volumes. So those are the people who you want to take that advice from. They're more receptive to hearing what you have to say. Behaviors, I think the behaviors that we're seeing, they're not new to us.
Right.
But we've never had the number.
It's amplified.
We have now, if you have a class of 17, you could possibly have 5 to 6 children with behavior challenging.
So back in the day, you had a behavior challenged child. That child was the exception.
That's right.
Nowadays, when you have normal children, the normal children is the exception.
For real.
Right.
And let me say this. You have to have the positive mindset. You got to come in. As teachers, we set the mood for the day.
We do. We
set the mood.
Yeah.
So it is very difficult for some teachers. They coming in, and you might have didn't sleep well at night. Right. The night before. You might have something that's really pressing on your brain, and you come in there and you got 5 or 6 children, and then 3 may be diagnosed, and the other 3 or 4 may not be diagnosed. Right. And that's what we're dealing with. And so how do you come in and get ready for that? Right. It's hard. But as a teacher, you have to be intentional too. Okay. Because you and I both know when we worked together, we had some challenging children. Yeah. But we were intentional because we set out to find out how we could help them. That's one thing. That's what your support, your teacher advisors, your supervisors, getting in touch with different organizations, different resources that are available. Yeah. Also, we have to be sensitive to the child, to understand they can't help how they are. Right. They don't understand why they're behaving that way. They're looking at you like you're the monster. Right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think what happens when we have that old school versus new school teacher, a lot of our old school teachers have seen it. Yes. They have worked through it. They're able to spot and pinpoint, which is why, like I say, a lot of the parents love interacting with the old school teachers. Right. They bring, or you all bring, a sense of comfort, knowledge. I'm being steered the right way. I'm being guided the right way, as opposed to what a lot of the new school teachers, they don't understand it, or they just think it's normal. Again, back in the day, that child was the exception. Now a lot of the children have these different ailments, and so new school teachers like, oh, this is just what it is. It's normal for them to bounce off the wall. So there is a difference in how...
Blame it on the sugar.
The sugar, right? There is a difference in how our old school teachers would handle classroom management and discipline versus our new school teachers. And I think what we need to do is make sure that we are being more inclusive and supporting our old school teachers, because as you said, and we all know, we don't want them to go. We actually need more of them to come back into the sector. You ain't got to go to the schools and sit in those classrooms and work with them children who be cutting up and fighting all day. Come back into the early education centers, because as I keep saying, child brain develops the most, and they're the most impressionable from newborn up until the age 4.
Yes.
We need to have those strong figures, a diverse group that are pouring into these teachers. So let me ask you, just kind of what you touched on about old school teachers, needing more support in getting with the technology or getting with the new regulations. What type of professional developments that you see could be incorporating in supporting our old school teachers?
I feel, I think that we need to first sit down and have that dialogue. We got to talk about what's going on. And then ask the teachers, what is it that you see that we can help you with? Talking to them, everybody is different.
Yeah.
So each teacher has specific needs.
Right.
So we can't just train on one area. We need to find out what they need individually.
Yeah.
One thing I see a lot of older teachers, they want that respect.
Yeah.
They don't want you to take what they're saying for granted.
Right.
Because they get that a lot from some parents. Because, for one, the way you and I were reared, that's not maybe the way things should go now. Because now we have names for the behaviors that we're dealing with.
Right.
A long time ago, you didn't know what it was. You had never heard of it. You might have had one kid. The old school teacher is the teacher that bonds with the child.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say the new school teacher. We have a young lady who works with us now, and she is so into the social emotional
There's
part.
A group of them.
Yeah.
There's a group of them. I'm not going to put them all. I'm not going to put our good. We're not going to throw the baby away with the bathwater. There is a group of the new schools
there is. And what we call that grit. They have grit.
Yeah.
They come there and they want to help.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because some people, some people when it comes to teaching is not what they think it is.
Right.
So maybe sometimes they see something hard and they like, hey, you see a kid on the floor kicking the walls, screaming and they're going to run.
Yeah.
But then that's where the old school teacher comes in. We can have those bonds, with that child, with that parent, because attachment is very crucial. As you just stated, the brain grows those first 5 years. Yeah. That's a very crucial time.
Yeah.
So attachment is what happens. We need that bond. And then we want our old school teachers to come in. We want to be able to help them by giving them those resources, talking to them, and enlightening them about different techniques. Right. Because there are different programs out there. You and I were made aware of when we worked together. Yeah. And they are helpful. Yeah. But most importantly, people have to be open-minded.
They have to be open-minded.
You have to be open-minded. And if we're going to work together to do this, then we got to listen to each other. We got to respect each other's opinions. Because yours may not be like mine. What they say, your blues may not be like mine.
Right.
And even though we may have differences of opinion, we still have a common bond. We care about these children.
So that brings me to my last talking point as we wrap up for our segment of the interview. that respect from old school to new school. And what you said really hit home, because a lot of the old school teachers feel like they want to be respected, right?
Right.
These new school teachers come in, they are very fast paced, they're very quick on their toes, they tech savvy, they got that energy. And sometimes it makes those old school teachers feel unappreciated, unneeded, not wanted.
Right.
But there has to be, and this reminds me of one of the previous interviews I've done, was diversity and inclusion, right? And when we spoke about the diversity and inclusion, we weren't just talking about race. We was talking about different backgrounds, different nationalities, different cultures. But this puts me in mind of that, because even in the differences of ages, we need to make sure that we are being inclusive and showing a level of diversity in our centers, right?
That's right.
And I think what you said was so important. Some of these old school teachers just want to feel respected. But I'm going to drop this on you.
Okay.
Because this is a situation I've seen personally in my center. I have an old school teacher in my center, and she is good at what she do. Mm-hmm. But baby, when them girls don't do what they supposed to do, them new school teachers, them new school girls, she say, little girl, that's not what you're supposed to do, little girl. Ooh, I gotta stop them from jumping on her. They don't care nothing about her age, her seniority, her
little
nothing.
Girl, how dare you?
Oh, they get
Baby,
it together, Miss Roz. And so I brought that up because as you spoke about that level of respect, it has to go both ways,
yes,
right?
It does.
It has to go both ways. So I wanted to say that I think that there should be some professional developments that are inserted that helps to include bridging that gap between old school and new school, and like we say, that level of that level of diversity that's within our centers, not as it comes from some major thing that's in the front line, but as small as the difference in age groups and age gaps who are teaching our children.
Right.
I want to kind of wrap this up with, are there any stories particular that you can tell where you've had to deal with that new school versus old school, and how did you handle it in your old school way to bring it back to the focus of the children? Were there any, new school teachers who trying to play on you? You had to remind them, I'm seasoned in this game. I'm respected in this game. Do you have anything you could share and kind of give the audience a story about?
The teacher I worked with during COVID, she was new.
Okay.
And she was young, and I call her now my work daughter.
Okay.
She doesn't work there any longer, but we still keep in touch. That's the respect.
Yes.
She came in the room, and you know me, I'm versatile.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna adapt.
Yeah.
So we hit it off just talking. We got a chance to spend time getting to know each other. And she was open to everything. But I gave her the opportunity to teach.
Right.
I didn't take over every day.
Right.
Because I saw she brought that energy.
Right.
I'm older. Every day. Now, let me tell you, I can bring it now. When I got her, I can bring it. But there's some days when, hey, I don't feel like it.
Right.
She was the yin to my yang.
Right.
She came in. She started something new that I'm carrying on after she's gone.
Right.
And we had a beautiful relationship.
Okay.
She brought that energy. Mm-hmm. She brought some new techniques to my room, singing with the kids. Mm-hmm. We'd sing in the morning. She changed my song. And I appreciated it. I didn't take it as, she's trying to take over.
Right.
No, she can't do that.
You took it as a help.
I took it as a help because that's what I wanted from her.
Yeah.
I am there as a mentor.
Right.
I am a mentor.
Yes, ma'am. You are.
I am a mentor.
30-something years, you better be.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And I wear that title proudly.
Yes, ma'am.
I am a mentor, but I'm an encourager. Mm-hmm. And anybody who comes into my classroom, that's my job, to make them feel welcome. Mm-hmm. And especially being an old school teacher, I'm there. That's how we live. That's what we got to lift each other up. We got to bring it. Mm-hmm. So she was she gave me nothing but the highest respect.
Right.
I get emotional talking about it because she looked to me as a mother.
Yeah.
And that's an honor.
And that speaks volumes to the impact old school teachers can have with the
yes,
new school teachers.
Yes.
If we just find a way to bring it all together.
That's right.
Old school teachers do not have to feel challenged that the new
or
school
somebody
teachers,
trying to take your place, or
and
she trying to move me out. No,
absolutely.
It's not about that. It's about the kids.
It's about the kids.
That's
and
right.
providing each other the opportunity to excel in their strengths. I thank you so much, Miss Roslyn Veal, for coming over and talking old school versus new school.
We could talk all day long.
And we'll probably continue this off air. But for now, I want to thank you all for tuning into another episode of the Childcare Teacher Chronicles, where we discuss all things childcare, specifically as it relates to the teacher's point of view. I'm going to tell you, go right now to like, comment, and subscribe, and tune into our next episode, because we come in with the heat. This is Coach Stacey B signing off, and I will see you next time.